Okay, so I guess I'm audible, and so we'll begin our second session. Just give me a minute to fix a few things before I begin so that we won't have any technical problems we had like yesterday. Okay, so we're all done. So, welcome, guys, to the second session of PG entrance coaching conducted by English Wizards. My name is Adina Regina and I am an MPhil scholar. So, within a span of 3 weeks, I hope I'll be able to make you understand at least the main points of English literature so that you will be able to clear at least some of the national wide entrance examinations for your post graduation in English literature. So, as you might have seen in my previous video, yesterday's class was actually about a quick or a brief overview of British English. And before watching today's video, I hope you have watched yesterday's video. If not, I request you to go to our YouTube channel and search for yesterday's video. It's okay if you haven't watched yesterday's video, you can still understand today's video, but it's much better if you have an idea of what we did yesterday to understand what we are going to do today even better. Okay, so as you can see in my slide, today's session is about Old English literature. Yesterday we talked about 2-3 points relating Old English literature. I hope you guys remember that and key points. I hope you remember all of the key points. So today let's begin our Old English literature, which is dated from 5th to 11th century AD. So before going directly into the Old English literature, I would like to mention a very few things which come just before Old English literature. For example, Greco-Roman period. We'll begin this session of Old English literature with Greco-Roman period. Greco-Roman period is from 9th century BC to 5th century AD. Greco-Roman period is from 9th century BC to 5th century AD. So things that you have to keep in mind is that this PPT or this presentation won't be enough for you to understand the whole thing because some of my points are not included in the PPT. So you'll have to write down the notes and study accordingly. So Greco-Roman period begins from 9th century BC till 5th century AD. So we can divide the ancient Greece into 3 periods. First period being archaic, second period being classical, and third period being Hellenistic. I'm sure if you remember yesterday's session, you must have an idea of all of these. So archaic period is important because it has the famous writer Homer. Homer, who is famous for two of his major works. Do you remember? I hope you do because we discussed about it in yesterday's class. Homer's two famous works are Iliad and Odyssey. Then we have the classical Greek period, wherein we have famous Greek tragedians and philosophers like Euripides, Sophocles, who are associated with Greek tragedy, and classical Greek philosophy. We have figures like Socrates, Plato, Aristotle associated with classical philosophy, Greek philosophy. Then we have Hellenistic period. And Hellenistic period has this famous figure. I think you know him. We have Augustus Caesar in Hellenistic period. Who was Augustus Caesar? Augustus Caesar was the first emperor of Rome. So we looked at Greco-Roman period. Yeah, Hellenistic period also has poets like Virgil, Horace, and Ovid. So again, Greco-Roman period from 9th century BC to 5th century AD. We have 3 periods of ancient Greece. Archaic, classical, Hellenistic. Archaic period has Homer, who has written Iliad and Odyssey. Classical period has Greek tragedians and philosophers like Euripides, Sophocles, and Socrates, Aristotle, and Plato. Then we have Hellenistic period, and the major figure is Augustus Caesar, who was the first emperor of Rome. And then we have poets like Virgil, Horace, and Ovid. Now we'll come to our Old English literature. Old English literature from 5th to 11th century AD. Now here we properly start our British literature. Okay. So first is a quick overview of Old English literature. Old English period is a long one. It opens in the 5th century and continues till 1066, 1066, which is an important year because this is the year of Norman conquest. So it is better if you note it down. So Old English period opens from 5th century and continues till 1066. Now, before going into our Old English period, it is always important before studying any British period, we have to understand some of the historical importance of the period, the major events occurring in the period, the major movements, revolts, if any, major poets, the literature background of the period, the important features of the period, etc. So yeah, we'll talk about or discuss about the history of early Britain. Okay, so first we'll talk about Celts, Celts. So Celts are original inhabitants of Britain from the Iron Age. So from in the early history of Britain, we have to keep in mind that Celts were actually the original inhabitants of the Britain, and they were from the Iron Age. So yes, Celts were in the inhabitants of Britain from 800 BC to 100 AD. Then what happened is that after the Celts came the Romans. There happened a Roman conquest in Britain, and we discussed about how Romans invaded Britain yesterday. 2 3 points we did discuss, and after that, after Romans left Britain, there came Picts, Scots, and Irish people. So first there were Celts, then came the Romans, then came Picts, Scots, and Irish people. And one other thing you have to keep in mind is King Arthur, who was a Celtic king. King Arthur is also associated with Arthurian legends, which became popular during this period and which appeared in English and French languages. Now we'll come back to our Old English literature, Old English period. Old English period from 5th century to 1066. Old English literature encompasses literature written between 7th century to 11th century AD. So Old English literature has literature which were written from 7th century to 11th century AD. And this period is also called as very important Anglo-Saxon literature. The literature written in this period is called as Anglo-Saxon literature. And the major genres of this period were the epic poetry, elegies, Bible translations, and chronicles. Bible translations, epic poetry, chronicles, these terms might give you a hint that major part of this, the literature produced during this age was religious. And we have major authors of this era, including Caedmon, Cinewulf, Alfred, and Venerable Bede. So, when you are looking from net point of view or from entrance point of view, it is important to note Beowulf, which is a very important poetry or very important, most important work of the Old English period, and also the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle. Beowulf is most important, and then comes the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle. So Beowulf and the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle are the greatest works written during this period. Again, I would like to mention 2 3 other important things coming under this age. For example, we talked that this age opens from 5th century and continues till 1066, and I mentioned something about the Norman conquest. Now, what was the Norman conquest? The Norman conquest of 1066 is also called as Battle of Hastings. Hastings, Battle of Hastings. Now, the last Anglo-Saxon king was named as Edward the Confessor. Very important. And this Edward the Confessor guy, he promised this William of Normandy the English throne. So, Norman of Conquest, which is also called as Battle of Hastings, the last Anglo-Saxon king, his name was Edward the Confessor, and Edward the Confessor promised William of Normandy the English throne. However, he was not able to keep his promise to William of Normandy, and William of Normandy became very furious and he defeated the Anglo-Saxon army. And so the William of Normandy came to be known as William the Conqueror. So two figures are very important when we study Norman conquest of 1066. That is Edward the Confessor, who betrayed William of Normandy by not keeping his word, and William of Normandy, who actually defeated the Anglo-Saxon army. And William of Normandy, by defeating the Anglo-Saxon army, brought French language an important position during that time. So French language became very dominant during the Old English or the Anglo-Saxon period. So that is about a quick overview of Old English literature. Now moving on to the next slide, we have Old English language. Old English language is actually very important when you look at net point of view, because I have seen a lot of questions. A lot is a very strong word. I mean, 2-3 questions have asked from Old English literature, so you can expect some questions from Old English literature even for your PG entrance exam. Old English language had 4 main dialects. So which were the 4 main dialects? We have Northumbrian, Mercian, Kentish, and West Saxon. So Northumbrian was the first to produce literature. So we can say somewhat that the early literature works were written in the Northumbrian dialect. Then we have Mercian. Mercian is the language of the Midlands. And Northumbrian and Mercian were found in a region of north of Thames. And these two, the Northumbrian and Mercian, are collectively called as Anglian. Anglian. So we have 4 dialects of Old English language. First is Northumbrian, which was the first to produce literature. Then we have Mercian, which is the language of Midlands. And Northumbrian and Mercian are collectively called as Anglian. Then we have Kentish dialect, which is the language of the Jutes in the southeast. And at the end, or in the last, we have West Saxon dialect. And West Saxon dialect is a dialect of Wessex, actually, and it became the most important and the standard for writing prose. So the West Saxon was a language of Alfred, and it became the standard dialect due to the political supremacy of Wessex. So West Saxon was the dialect of Wessex. It became the standard dialect of prose, and it was the language of Alfred. So Old English language, there were 4 major dialects. These first 2 dialects are collectively known as Anglian. Then we have Kentish, which is the language of Jutes, and then we have West Saxon, which became the standard dialects. So Northumbrian and Mercian are collectively called as Anglian, and almost all the extant texts of the periods were written in West Saxon. Because West Saxon was the dialect in which the prose were written, and it became the standard dialect. It is also important to keep in mind a few points regarding the pronunciation, spelling, vocabulary, and grammar of Old English language. The vocabulary basically were purely of Germanic words. And the absence of French and Latin derivatives were key in the vocabulary, and the pronunciation was different. The pronunciation of long vowels were different from before, and the spelling had long consonant clusters that we actually do not employ in the current English language. And that is about Old English language. Now we'll move to the literary features of the period. Okay, so what are the literary features of this age? So most of the works were written by anonymous people. So anonymous origin works are mostly anonymous. And like we discussed earlier, major genres of this period were epic poetry, sermons, chronicles, and biblical translations. So epic poetry, sermons, chronicle, biblical translations means the literature was basically religious in nature. And then we have the lack of individuality or the imitative quality. And because most of the works were anonymous, we can say that a lot of writers were inspired from other works, because there was not a proper author associated with a work, so it was better to imitate, because there were not a lot of works produced during that time to actually draw inspiration from. So from the few number of works which were present, the other writers started to draw inspiration from the available work. So the most of the works, prose as well as poetry, is translated or adapted from Bible. Bible was the main source for them to copy or steal, so that they can produce new works. Then we have pagan origins. Many of the poems of the period were associated with the pagan past, and the manuscripts in which the poetry are preserved, there are four major manuscripts. First one is the Beowulf MS or Novel Codex. So very important, note down that Novel Codex is the another name of the Beowulf manuscript. MS is manuscript. So the Beowulf manuscript is also known as Novel Codex, and it contains Beowulf and another work called Judith. Then we have the Junius manuscript, which contains the so-called Cadmonian poems. So where were the works or the poems of Cadmon contained in? They were contained in the manuscript known as the Junius manuscript. Then we have the Exeter book. Exeter book contained the poems or the two of the signed poems of Cinewulf. And then at last we have the Versilli book, and the Versilli book contained another two of the poems of Cinewulf. So we have four manuscripts majorly in the Old English period: the Beowulf manuscript, Junius manuscript, Exeter manuscript, and Versilli manuscript. The Beowulf manuscript contains, very important, Beowulf and Judith, and it is also known as the Novel Codex. Then we have the Junius manuscript, which contains the Cadmonian poems, Cadmon's poems. And then we have the Exeter book, which contains two of Cinewulf's poems, and also Versilli, which contains two of Cinewulf's poetry. Now moving on to our Old English poetry. So, Old English poetry. Before going on to the Old English poetry, we'll talk about some of the major features of Old English poetry. The Old English poetry was very bold and elegiac, and like we discussed earlier, religious and had pagan influence, were anonymous, and other than all of that, it also had an internal rhyme. So Old English poetry had internal rhyme. Now, what is internal rhyme? We have heard of normal rhyme, right? We have heard of rhyming poems, but what is internal rhyme? I'll give you an example. These two lines, okay? I drove myself to the lake and dove into water. First line is drove myself to the lake, and second line is and dove into water. Here we can find that there are two words rhyming, drove and dove. And these two rhyming words do not come at the end of the lines, right? It is somewhere in between the line. I drove myself to the lake, first line, and dove into water, second line. So internal rhyme is when the middle parts of the lines are rhyming. So this Old English poetry had a lot of internal rhymes. And the themes of the major poetry of Old English period were actually about the helplessness of a man before the power of fate. That can be actually easily found in the poem Beowulf. Beowulf actually portrays the helplessness of the heroic character Beowulf. Even though he was able to save his people, he had to sacrifice himself for other people. So that is important. Okay. So other than that, most Old English poetry can be said to be Christian, but a few distinct pieces were secular. And most poems were, like we discussed, anonymous poems, and the epic Beowulf is the greatest of the literary work produced during the Old English period. Also, we discussed about internal rhyme. I hope you have taken a note of it or remember it. Now we have Beowulf. Beowulf was the star of this session, or it is the most important part of the Old English literature. Beowulf is the oldest surviving national epic of England. So, if someone asks you, which the oldest surviving poetry or oldest surviving epic of British literature is, you should, without any doubt, answer that it is Beowulf. And it is said that it is probably written sometime in the 7th century AD. Okay, so it narrates the Scandinavian story of a Geatish hero Beowulf who fights the demonic monster Grendel. So the setting of this poem, Beowulf, is Scandinavia, and it talks about a Geatish hero called Beowulf, and the main villain of this poetry or the main anti-hero of this poem is Grendel. Then, when we look at the major characters of this poem, we have Beowulf, who is the title figure of this poem, who is the superhero like figure, who is a very courteous hero. And then we have Hrothgar, Hroth. Here you have the spelling here, Hrothgar. Hrothgar, who is a Danish king. And then we have Grendel, the villain. And then we have Grendel's mother, who's another villain. Then we have Hrothgar's queen, who's actually known as Weltho. Wealth, Wealth, OW, Wealtho. So these are the major characters of Beowulf. We have Beowulf, Grendel, King Hrothgar, and his wife Wealtho. And it is divided into two parts and has 3,182 lines. So we have mentioned that I mentioned that this poem is an epic, right? So it's not a wonder that it has more than 3,000 lines, but it is pretty cool, right? I mean, it was produced when there were a very few works of literature, and the person, whoever who's written this work, has been able to produce a wonderful epic with little inspiration, I suppose. Maybe it was drawn from some themes related to Bible. Okay. So coming to the story, we have in the first part Beowulf, son of Ecgtheow. I'm not sure how it's pronounced, but yeah. And rids the Danish king Hrothgar of a terrible monster called Grendel. So this Danish king Hrothgar asks Beowulf to kill or to get rid of this monster who's called as Grendel. So Beowulf, what he does is he kills Grendel because Danish king Hrothgar asks him to. And this Grendel's mother, who feels like, she should take revenge, tries to kill Beowulf, but she also dies. Beowulf kills her. In the second part, Beowulf becomes king of Geats, and after 40 years of his reign, a dragon attacks his people. So in the second part, Beowulf, who was actually a warrior, becomes a king, and then he finds that a dragon is attacking his people. Later, he kills the dragon, but he actually receives a wound himself, and he dies to death. He bleeds to death. So sad. Yeah, so sad. And then the poetry actually concludes with the funeral ceremonies of Beowulf. So this is the very important poem, Beowulf. Questions can be expected from this section. So Beowulf was divided into how many parts? Very good, 2 parts. It tells the story of whom? Beowulf. That is simple. Yeah, has how many lines? The poem has 3,182 lines, and the king's name is Danish King Hrothgar. And Beowulf becomes the king of which region? Geats. And the poetry concludes with the funeral ceremonies. Now, what is Beowulf's importance in the present century or today? Beowulf today. A lot of people who came after Old English writers or the contemporary writers we have today, or writers who came a lot of writers who came when a lot of works were being produced, took inspiration from Beowulf and wrote a lot of other works inspired from it. We have Seamus Heaney, who was influenced by Beowulf and who translated Beowulf in 1999. And we have Kevin Kernan, who produced the electronic Beowulf in 1982. And we also have The Mere Wife, which is written by Maria Dana Headley. In 2018, she wrote The Mere Wife, and which is a retelling of Beowulf from Grendel's mother's point of view. So it is a retelling that is set in 21st century America, and it is primarily told from Grendel's mother's point of view. Aren't you all a bit interested or curious to know how that story would be taking place. I mean, if you are, you should totally go and at least look it up in Google. Maybe we will get some feminist ideas or feminist point of view. Yeah. Also, I forgot to mention that Beowulf in this section Beowulf today, that our famous writer J.R.R. Tolkien has written a lecture named as Beowulf, the Monsters and the Critics in 1936, and the poem has also influenced writers like Ted Hughes and W.H. Auden. Now we have Caedmon. Who was Caedmon? Caedmon was a 7th century Northumbrian poet. We know the Northumbrian dialect. We looked it in the Old English dialect section or the Old English language section. So, Caedmon is a 7th century Northumbrian poet and the earliest English poet whose name is known. And so first poet without this anonymous tag on him is Caedmon. I mean, we know that Caedmon's works were written by Caedmon. So we have a writer who has a name, finally. So the first early poet whose name is known is Caedmon. And he is known as the father of Old English poetry. Important, he is known as the father of Old English poetry. So who called him the father of Old English poetry? Clare Lees and Gillian Overing called Caedmon as the father of Old English poetry. He later became a monk and he became an inspirational Christian poet. Now, there's an interesting story regarding Caedmon. So, much of the details we know about Caedmon were from Venerable Bede's Ecclesiastical History of the English Race. So, according to Bede, Caedmon founded the school of Christian poetry, which is Caedmonian school. So he seems like much of a genius, doesn't he? Because he founded a school, a Christian school a school of Christian poetry, right? But actually, Caedmon was an illiterate cowherd. And miracles happened in his life. Interesting, right? What miracles? He was actually not able to sing a song at a feast. And that night, a man came in his dream. So this Caedmon was an illiterate person. He was not even able to sing a song at a feast. And that night, a man came to his dream and asked him to sing to me the beginning of all things. That is what that person who came in his dream told him. Sing to me the beginning of all things. And then he was able to sing. So that is how Caedmon found his powers and he became a writer and he even founded this school for Christian poetry, Caedmonian School. That is how he became a monk and an inspirational Christian poet. So according to Bede, Caedmon founded Caedmon School, the school of Christian poetry. Caedmon's only surviving work is known as Caedmon's hymn. I'm not sure if it's called Bede or Bede, okay? I've always pronounced it as Bede, so if you want to look it up, please do. Okay, so one of the earliest examples of sustained poetry in Old English and Germanic language is Caedmon's hymn, and alternative vernacular praise poem in honor of God in 6 lines. So Caedmon's hymn is actually a praise poem, and it is in the honor of God, and it has 9 lines. Very important, it has 9 lines, only 9 lines. Okay, so we studied about Caedmon. Now we have Cynewulf. I don't know if it's pronounced as Cynewulf or Kinolf. It is different in different pronunciations, or different people pronounce it different ways. Please look it up also. So Cynewulf is actually a Latin scholar. He probably lived in the 9th century, and he is known for a lot of his religious compositions. And 4 poems contain the signature of Cynewulf. So these 4 poems, we have studied that 2 of the manuscripts. Remember, 2 of the manuscripts contain 2 of his poems each, and it contains the signature. So the signed poems of Cynewulf. We have his poems called Juliana, Elaine, Christ, and the Fate of the Apostles. Then we have The Dream of the Road, which is the most important and the finest of all English poems. And this poem is also ascribed to him. Who is the first English poet whose name is known? I hope you have answered. It's Caedmon, actually. Yeah. And this guy would be like the second, and actually the contemporary of Caedmon. So his 4 major poems are, repeat after me, Juliana, Elaine, Christ, and the Fates of the Apostles. And there's also another poem which is called as The Dream of the Road. Also, many scholarly compositions, more scholarly compositions than Caedmon's poem. Obviously, because Caedmon's an illiterate person, so that is like given, right? Caedmon's poetry were not majorly so like informative or philosophical or scholarly. Cinnabar probably might have got some kind of a formal education and was not an illiterate person. So obviously, his poems are more scholarly than Caedmon's poems. Now we have elegies. So yeah, Exeter book. The Exeter book contains of 7 short poems which have come to be described as elegies or wisdom poetry. So when we think about Old English poetry or Old English elegies, you should think of wisdom poetry. So elegies, wisdom poetry, Exeter book, 7 short poems. Exeter book has 7 short poems which came to be known as elegies or wisdom poetry. Related to the heroic tales. So these poems were related to the heroic tales and lyrical in composition and gloomy in mood. Okay, they are the 7 short poems. The 7 short poems which were contained in which book? The Exeter book were The Ruin, The Wanderer, The Seafarer, Wolf and Edwasser, Dior, The Wife's Lament, and The Husband's Message. You should try to by heart these 7 poems. Maybe make some kind of a story. You can, I hope, create some interesting story with these words and maybe somehow associate it and then study it by heart. So the 7 short poems are The Ruin, The Wanderer, The Seafarer, Wolf and the Adverser, Dior, The Wife's Lament, and The Husband's Message. Then we have Alfred the Great, who also wrote a wisdom poem. What is a wisdom poem? A wisdom poem is an elegy, okay? A wisdom poem called Lace of Boethius. Lace, not the lace that we eat. Okay, anyway, Lace of Boethius. So that is the elegies. Now we have Old English prose. Uh, I mean, there were Old English prose works, but majorly they were poetry. Poetry was actually the major genre of Old English period. But we have prose works somewhere here and there. There were 2 types of prose works, obviously Christian and secular, but majorly Christian or religious prose texts were available. Sermon and biblical translations from Latin. So there were Latin was a highly influenced language during that time. So there were biblical translation and sermons from Latin to Old English language. And then we have prose, which was written in Latin before the reign of King Alfred. And after the reign of King Alfred came Anglo-Saxon or Old English translations of Latin biblical or sermon works. Now we have the Venerable Bede. He is also known as the Saint Bede or the Venerable Bede or Bede the Venerable. I am not sure if it's Bede or Bede. Again, I have always, all through my life, I have pronounced it as Bede. It would be very difficult for me to like change it. I would if it is wrong. I don't know if it's wrong. I've always pronounced it as Bede. So I would continue calling him as Bede. So he's also known as Venerable Bede or Bede the Venerable. He lived in the 7th to 8th century and he dealt with theology and history, wrote around 40 books of varied themes. And then we have his very famous book, which is a book, Ecclesiastical History of English Race, whose details were available in this famous text, Ecclesiastical History of English Race. I hope you remember. I hope you have given me the correct answer, and the answer is Caedmon. Okay, so Ecclesiastical History of English Race is associated with which writer? Venerable Bede, and it was written in AD 731, and it gained him the title Father of English History. So we have a Father of English History who is Venerable Bede, and he has written almost 40 books around various themes, and he has written his most famous book, which is Ecclesiastical History of English Race, which was written in 731 AD. And this book, Ecclesiastical History of English Race, was not written in English. It was originally written in Latin, and it had 5 books in total, and King Alfred translated it to English. So who translated Ecclesiastical History of English Race into English? Yes, King Alfred did. And it is written in 5 books. Now, we have King Alfred. Who's King Alfred? King Alfred is the person who translated the ecclesiastical history of Venerable Bede into English. Yes, you remembered it. Very good. Brilliant. So King Alfred the Great lived from AD 848 to 99, and he's the father of English prose. We have learned who is the father of English poetry, Old English poetry. Then we looked at who was the father of English history, and now we have looked at who is the father of English prose. Who is the father of English prose? King Alfred the Great, and he was the king of Wessex, like we discussed in the earlier slides. And from 871 AD until his death in AD 899. Revitalized English culture for Danes and Vikings. Devitalized English culture. So he has actually translated a lot of Latin text into English, right? And ecclesiastical history, yeah. So he has also encouraged writing in the vernacular, as in writing in English. So he has actually encouraged people to write in English language and to embrace or revitalize the English culture. So Alfred translated most important of Latin texts, like the ecclesiastical history of the English race by Venerable Bede, and then we have the history of the world by Orosius. Then we have pastoral rule or pastoral care, which was written by Pope Gregory. Then we have consolation of philosophy written by Boethius, and then we have the soliloquies of Saint Augustine. So his texts were didactic, devotional, and informative prose. And the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle is probably commissioned at the time of Alfred. Anglo-Saxon Chronicle is one of the major historical record of this Anglo-Saxon period, and it has continued over 3 centuries. Very fascinating, isn't it? So the Anglo-Saxon Chronicles was probably commissioned at the time of Alfred, but it continued over 3 centuries. And it is a major historical record of this age. Now, so this is our last slide. Other important writers or other important poets of our Old English period. We have two major poets who are Alfric and Wulfstan. So who's Alfric? Alfric is also called as Alfric of Enchants. It is a very difficult word to pronounce. Enshans. Okay. So not as important as Caedmon or Cinewulf or Bede, but I would just mention major works by Alfric. He's actually written translations, so like translations from Old and New Testaments, and he actually aimed to bring better understanding of Christian faith. So he wanted to emphasis on Christianity and bring to the common folk a better understanding in the Christian faith. And he actually used simple English, so he encouraged people or writers to write more in English or English vernacular. Then towards the end, we have the contemporary of Alfric, who was Wulfstan. Wulfstan basically wrote sermons, and we have two important sermons written by Wulfstan. Please note it down. First is the Sermon of Wulf, Wulf, W-U-L-F. So the Sermon of Wulf is one of the major works of Wulfstan, and also has written a prose work called as Martyrology. 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 Martyrology consists of prose about saints or martyrs. Okay. So we have discussed, what all have we discussed in this session? I hope you remember. First, we discussed about the brief history which comes, brief history of Britain before Old English period. We talked about the Greco-Roman period, and we talked about 3 major periods of Greco-Roman period: Hellenistic, Classic, and Roman period. Hellenistic, Classic, and not Roman period, Hellenistic, Classic, and Archaic period. And then we have Old English language. We talked about Old English vocabulary. We talked about Old English, not grammar, pronunciation, spelling, and we talked about how Norman conquest came and the historical importance of Norman conquest. Then we talked about the Old English literature, the features of Old English literature. We talked about what internal rhyming is. We talked about how bold and didactic the Old English poetry was. We talked about the important Old English poems like Beowulf. Then we talked about the major poetry of our Old English period, which is Beowulf, and then we talked about two major important poets of or writers of this age, Caedmon and Cinewulf. Then we talked about Venerable Bede, King Alfred, and also we talked about Alfred and Wulfstan. So this is Old English literature for you, and I hope things were clear. And even though it is a very monotonous session, because I can't see either of, I mean, none of your faces or your feedbacks, or even I don't even know if you guys, I mean, if any one of you is listening or if out there. So it was just a very monotonous session, but I hope I tried to make it as interactive as possible and as interesting as possible. I would like to know your suggestions and feedback. Please send us a message on Instagram or WhatsApp, or we'll try to share a Google form. So please give us your feedback, and please revise these sessions. And if you haven't already watched the previous session, please go to our YouTube channel and watch yesterday's session, which was a brief overview of English literature. And I pretty sure think that if you are able to sit through all the sessions and study in a proper way, you will surely be able to clear uh, PG entrance examination at any or many central national universities or state universities, and also will be able to clear UGC net. If you have any doubts, feel free to DM us. Okay. And for tomorrow's class, we have Middle English period. So we'll discuss about the major Middle English poets, which is actually going to be more important than the Old English period, because Middle English period is very recurrently asked during PG entrance examinations or for UGC net exam, because we have important writers and works, because we have Chaucer, we have his Canterbury Tales and other important works. We also have writers like William Langland, John Gower. So please try to watch our tomorrow session and give us feedbacks and reviews. So I hope this session was clear to you. And now I am going offline.